funk, thoughts deep, boys steeped in the depths that he sunk. Big stress, depressed in the middle of fall. Sky gray, high late in the thick of it all. I wonder, how long can a human survive just staying alive or carrying the rest of the tribe? Waiting for the day to arrive or struggling dies, and I be doing way, way more than getting by. So why? Cop myself a cup of coffee, sip of water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, cop myself a cup of coffee, sip of water in it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Eyes realize life is so much more than just living a day. Every day I can sit and reflect and breathe and connect to myself and all that I've been given. See, giving up is not an option. So when I'm looking at gray skies, I'll be adopting a new way to deal with a test. Lord, relieve me of stress. The rain be looking like when blessings dropping. And so I go, cop myself a cup of coffee, sip of water, rain it softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Water raining softly, cleansing me of stress I hold. Hey, here we go. Yeah. Let's do this. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. In times of test, let no harm beset me, oh my Lord, oh my Lord.
That will stop something. As usual, good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Weinstein. This is Divided We Stand on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're unfamiliar with this channel, you've come to the right place if you are not in favor of the Republican Party. And we ask that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're not a monetized channel, which means you won't see any commercials. We don't make any money off this. Zero. In fact, we lose money on this because we pay for the software that we use for this. And we do it for a reason. Number one, we're not looking for money. A lot of people get involved with things to make money. And when we get that, we understand that. And if this had been a large channel with a very, very large following, we would have been forced to have monetized this channel. But no, it won't be. And that means it's better for you. It's better for us. We can have an interaction. And you don't have to worry about those just obnoxious commercials every few minutes. It's absurd. So Google probably doesn't like us, but we don't really care. Also, we have our Facebook group page. If you go to Facebook, you'll see the Divided We Stand Facebook group page, and just ask to become a member, and you'll be approved, as long as, of course, you're not somebody who likes to cause trouble or a troll or something like that. That page is popular. That is not monetized, but we are a private page, and we have well over 1,500 members, and we're still growing. And that is despite the fact that we're not in a great algorithm for this, because Facebook does want to make money too. We don't boost any ads or anything like that. So we can always use your support, and that's a small way that you can fight back, because at this point, it's really social media it's almost like guerrilla advertising. You have to do it that way, because right now it doesn't seem like any politicians are strong enough to put Trump out. So we're going to have to figure this thing out ourselves. And one way is to do it through this medium and other media like this. So anyway, I'd like to introduce my co-host, and that would be our David Price. Dave's in Arlington, Virginia right now. Dave, how are you doing, and what's on your mind?
Well, let's see. Tonight, it's true that I'll be in Arlington, Virginia, but we're doing every year. Jude, my wife, she was a Jersey Shore child, and so we have to get our Jersey Shore fix. So I'll be in your state, which was my state, your state, for a few days, and I guess I'll just have to forego I don't think this is hyperbole, but it's getting close. I'll just have to forego the protest of the hour. And now they've been established, in addition to the one I talk about all the time, the Peace Vigil, 24/7, 365, outside of the White House. I'm amazed Trump hasn't attacked it yet, because they've now moved full bore and added Trump. They deal more with international crises and America's role in that. So they've now moved Trump up to, one of the public enemies, number one. And so it's you've got that going. Then you have one at Union Station, which is the train station here in D.C. That is also 24/7. That's a group.
Dave, I'm going to interrupt you. Joey seems to think you need to turn your mic up. I can turn you up a little bit here anyway. Don't go crazy with it, because it might just be Joey's, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I don't want you to redline, because then it's not going to. I think you're okay, but we'll see.
I'm redlining right now, so let me.
All right. Well, we don't want that. I turn you up a little bit here. You're like 86%, and it's yelling.
Whatever.
Okay.
So anyway, as I said, you've got this 24/7 protest, and by that I mean literally people are there 24 hours a day. They do it in shifts, and while Peace Vigil is always right there at the White House with this newer group, Flare. They actually have days where they go to the Capitol and lobby, and then they have days when they go and protest in front of Heritage. So that's their role. There's another one springing up in McPherson, which will also be a 24/7. So my point is, there is a protest. If you look around, you might say, "Well, where is it? Where is it? Where is it?" It's coming, and again, from an old-time baby boomer who first took the streets in, I guess, 1969. I guess it didn't. I didn't go out in 68, but 69, I was out in the streets. And the thing I would say is, you have to be patient. It's not something we're good at. It's not something when the world is burning, which Trump has lit it a fire. You think you don't have time to do it. We've got to do it right now. Well, you can't do it right now. It's a slow process. You can't speed it up. The nice thing is you have a man, a subhuman man, but I guess a man in the White House who's helping you along by just making it, every decision he makes is not worse than the one before, but it's equal. And then some of them are worse. So we have that. So what we've been doing out there, for you that listen regularly and for anybody who's new tonight, we've decided there's so much that you don't want to just ramble on. So what Brian and I've done, we've decided to propose 3 topics, and that kind of gives you, as the audience, a chance to think. And again, we very much want you to post your comments, post your questions, because this show, it sounds so cliched. This show is your show. Well, it is. Okay, it's not our show. We get something out of it. We get to vent. We get to discuss. We get an hour aside to talk, and we don't really have that necessarily in our personal and professional lives. But more than that, and I think those people who have been with us a long time would agree that this really has become a sort of family.
Over 5 years now.
Yes, a Sunday night family. People come and go as their lives change, and they do this. But it was interesting. I talked about this before, but I'll just mention it before we jump into Trump tonight, because this was really eye-opening to me. This is my first time doing anything full, a full-on podcast. I do a lot now, it's podcasting, but this was the first, and it took me a little bit of time, Brian. When the first comments started coming up, and people were saying, "Hey, hey, how you doing, Veg? How you doing, Anthony? How you doing, Joey?" And I'm thinking like, well, wait a minute, they're not listening to not that I wasn't, I just didn't understand that. And now I know how important that is. This is a meeting place for people of like minds that are spread. I guess the furthest we've reached is Australia. We certainly have
And New Zealand. I mean, they're the same kind of area.
and New Zealand, but we've had other European places. We haven't had Asia yet. We need to get Asia, but no. So anyway, so let's get right down to it. Now, with Trump, there are two kinds of things going on. There's the continuing idiocy, if you will, and then there's the new idiocy, and we try to mix and match. So I think what we should talk about this week, or at least start talking about, a continuation, which I guess is the biggest story, I suppose, the Epstein files and the explosion that is caused. But this week, we got a new, well, they weren't new. They've been around for a long time, so I can't say that. But we got two really people who should be in the anti-Trump Hall of Fame, and that would be the creators of South Park, which really, given the idea of Trump is after the networks, very daring for them to do what they did. And we'll talk about some of the other ramifications going on there. And the third, of course, is the absolute insanity of charging Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton with causing the Russian problem. No, Trump caused the Russian problem. And it really bears, again, I think, scrutiny. And Brian, you're good at this, is the idea that there's a theory that when you're someone like Trump, that when you make charges of things, it's things that you've done. Almost like, you're striking out first to do it that way. I think it might be a little bit more than that. I think that's part of it. I also think that Trump, in his world, does not understand that not everybody is like Donald Trump. Thank God they're not. But so these things, he would do what he accuses others of doing. And some of it he's done. But he just doesn't understand that there can be kindness, there can be compassion, there can be empathy, there can be understanding. Dare we say it, there can be love in the world. And think about it, he lives in a loveless world. His kids don't love him. He doesn't love them. The women that have married him did not love him, and he didn't love them. There's a big difference between love and lust. I don't think he understands the difference. And so if it were anybody else, I'd actually feel sorry. But I do not feel sorry for Donald Trump.
Do you feel sorry for Hulk Hogan? I don't.
Oh, no, that was interesting. We'll start there for a moment, too. Okay. Of course, it does seem, which is not unusual. Like I said, I'm 73, so a lot of my contemporaries are dying all over the place. But, it's kind of been, it's like, not every day, but, and one of my MAGA, shall we say, what do we say? I call them, they're not even frenemies. But anyway, he said, I posted, I never liked Hulk Hogan. I love pro wrestling. I still do like it. But I just never liked him. And this person, Jerry, said, oh, that's just because he came out for Trump. And I said, no, it's long before that. Hulk Hogan is the epitome of what a MAGA person is. Just like Kid Rock. What we're good about is there are more entertainers, more artists, more musicians. I don't know about more athletes because a lot of them are quiet, but more for every Hulk Hogan, those of you who know wrestling, there's a Kevin Nash who comes out, or Dave Bautista, who was a professional wrestler, now actor, comes out against him. So yeah, for Hulk Hogan, okay, I don't like anybody to die, but I feel nothing for him. I think the world, honestly, except maybe for his world. I mean, when I say his world, there are people who loved him or liked him. The world is a better place without him.
It's kind of interesting, Dave, because the MAGA movement, coming from our perspective, when we watch these people
Right.
on different social media, and just even knowing people like this, it kind of resembles the WWE crowd.
There's no
very,
question.
very similar.
I'm thinking,
And in the
about-
way they treat the match as though it's true, it's the same thing with Trump.
Well, when Michael, our son, was little, he got the wrestling bug, and we would go to matches and professional matches. Then the WWF, now the WWE, and there would invariably we'd be sitting near a younger couple or two younger guys. Oh, this is real. No, I mean, but they really did believe it. So your analogy is spot on. It is, and in fact, there are so many connections. Do you realize? I don't know if you know this because you're not really follow pro wrestling. Did you
I
know
don't.
that Donald Trump is in the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
I do not know that. I know he has shown up to
No,
different
he's on
events
there.
for Vince
Yes.
McMahon, another
And,
real creep.
Well, and of course, the ties go deep because Linda McMahon, who is the wife of Vince McMahon, who, along with him, is being charged with sex trafficking and some other things for things that went on in the organization. She's a perfect match for MAGA. She's a female MAGA. And on and on and on.
I doubt she and her husband Vince are a traditional American couple. I can't even imagine them sleeping together.
Well,
I think it's
there's
just
all-
arranged to seem
Well, and that's basically it. Again,
normal.
no one. I'm of a firm belief nobody has the right to comment on anyone's marriage because nobody knows except those two people what's going on. But there is a point where you cross the line when you become a public figure. That changes. Okay, to a certain extent, and especially if you become a public figure like the one this week. And if you're not paying attention to this, people, I think it's interesting. One of the, I guess, scuzz buckets in the world of education is the state superintendent of education in Oklahoma. He's the one who said all classes must teach the Bible. He's been on, and so they have a meeting, right? And it's the state board. And he has playing behind him, according to two members of the state board who could say there were, I mean, I can't say he did it, but there was pornography playing behind him. And you see that play out all again and again and again and again. I would ask anyone out there, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen, tell me the last time since Bill Clinton that a Democrat has been charged or accused of something sexual. It's rare. I would say it's 9-1, maybe more than that. Republicans
Right. I
against them.
mean, we can name a
And I
couple,
think-
but that's it.
I mean, but that's fine. And I'm not saying one is better. I'm just saying one is worse. There's a difference. All right, so let's look
Because
at these
they
things.
seem. I know we're going to move on, but it just seems that the right wing, the repressed, the people who are repressed sexually, seem to come out of that. Not always, but out of that religious milieu. And this is where you see the pastors doing
and-
everything.
And which I also find interesting, the fact that what was it? This line from Star Wars. I just always kept in my mind. The Force is strong in that one. Well, the hypocrisy is strong in most of, or in many of the MAGA leaders. I think the ultimate is Mike Johnson, who does such things as come out and say, yes, the Epstein files should be released, makes a press announcement about that, and within 2 hours votes for it to be suppressed.
Right.
Now, some people might claim that's playing both ends against the middle. No, what's happened, MAGA really doesn't deal in the truth. They're not interested in it. They don't promote it. They don't care about it. It's almost as if a whole party has taken on Donald Trump's persona. Now, Donald Trump doesn't have that kind of power to make people do that. What it is they wanted to do it. Nobody would follow Trump that didn't want to. Why would you? Why would you be against him if you didn't want to? There's always reasons. So, which one you want to start with? You want to look at Epstein? You want to look at South Park? You want to look at Tulsi Gabbard?
Let's go right in that order. I think it's a good order. It doesn't really matter. But as far as Epstein, and there's a lot we can talk about, because we were talking about Epstein the last 2 weeks prior to the show, but we could certainly talk about Mike Johnson. But I'm not really going to discuss him. But it's this, the deputy from the DOJ goes to meet Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted liar, by the way, and sex offender. Now, when the attorney comes there, he speaks to her for a couple of hours. Does it, I think, for at least 2 days he did it. And then as he leaves, she has this huge box with her. Okay. Now, why are they giving the box? Now, everybody's speculating. And you know what? You don't even have to be that intelligent to speculate what's going on. Because had he obviously used a lower level agent, as they normally do, to question her, then he'd have no control, because he can't decide which one is pro-Trump or not. Mm-hmm. But now that he's got the fact that, I'm sure he didn't want to have the director of the DOJ, Pam Bondi. So he has Bondi's assistant goes, and you know that he's going to work for the benefit of Trump. So we can speculate. I think the only question now is, how do they work this out? I mean, is she going to look for the pardon? Is she going to just mention every Democrat and that's it? Or is she just going to simply say, Trump wasn't on this list? Who would believe her anyway? But I don't think the audience is you. I don't think the audience is me or anybody watching the show. It seems to be that third you keep talking about. And as long as he can control that. So it pisses the hell out of me, and I'm sure it pisses the hell out of you to see that. But Dave, I tell you, it really, really stinks. We all think it stinks, and it's very frustrating to see this. But, that's... It's a real shitty deal that he would do this, and he had to, in a certain sense, because the longer he leaves her alone without his personal attorney being there, the more trouble that can happen for him. And you can see how he tries to divert attention when any question comes about this. The first thing he'll say is, "Well, it's the oldest trick in the book. The oldest look over there." So he says, yeah. Well, I think Obama's the biggest problem. So to me, Dave, I don't even know where we go with this, but thankfully there is a press.
Well, I think this is just my personal opinion. I've gotten into some spirited discussions down here with those who feel differently. I don't think the Epstein is going to scar Trump at all in the long run. I really don't. First of all, if there did exist a document with his name once or 1,000 times, which I believe is definitely possible, somewhere in that range, either the fact they've either been altered by now, or they're redacted to where the only word in there is the.
Well, don't you think that Garland saw the original documents himself, or no?
Let's put it like this. We've talked. I have the utmost disrespect for the job that Merrick Garland did. Now, Again, I will say that saying, I've never been Attorney General, so I don't know what pressures are with the job. I'm not even sure what you're going to do. But I would think that a primary job, if you were the head of justice for America, was to keep Donald Trump from ever running from office again. And in that, he failed. And so in that way, I think it was a failure. So when you say, did he see it? Where is he now then? Why isn't he saying what he saw? Have you heard him say anything at all?
No, I mean, you would think that if he's not saying something, he would definitely say something if something came out saying.
I mean, there's been enough things that have been disputed at other ends.
Right.
So I mean, either Merrick Garland didn't see it, or isn't, saying
or didn't
anything.
Want to see it. Didn't want to see it.
Well, we don't. Yes, I mean, we don't know. Merrick Garland obviously was highly rated, I guess, in the Democratic Party, because Barack Obama nominated him for the Supreme Court, and Joe Biden made him Attorney General of the United States. Now, We don't know whether that was because of his legal brilliance. We don't know if that was because he had secretly bankrolled the Democratic Party. We don't even know, and knowing Biden and to a certain extent Obama, they might have felt we're going to have him because he will be fair. Well, there's a difference between being fair and not doing your job. And I would charge him with not doing his job. So the whole thing is, I don't think the Epstein file, as it ever was put together, exists in the form in which it did. Secondly, and this is more disturbing, it kind of ties into the pro wrestling aspect of Trump's MAGA. Okay. And it came up. Remember, they talked about locker room talk, and there's been a lot of that. And look, locker room talks exist; it still does. I have a grandson who plays 3 sports, and they do locker room talk. It's the way that this. We haven't changed it to a certain extent, and a lot of it is false bravado and all this. But you know how many people, MAGA men, would either publicly or secretly high five Donald Trump for having as much sex as we think he had? We find it horrendous, or I find it horrendous. Now, when you get, I think there are gradations, but it's still against the law. I mean, I think it's one thing to have sex with a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old. I mean, different levels, but it's still wrong, even if it's 17 or, whatever the age of consent is, 16. So, but I think there's a lot of high five going, man, that guy, he's pretty, think about it. He walked into rooms where there were like 30 beautiful women naked. And we know he's done that. I mean, he admits to doing that, Again, the number 27, the 27 women have charged him. And only, one case, the Jean Carroll case, is the only one that's been through. And, of course, the Stormy Daniels. But that was a different type of thing. That was consensual, but what got that started was the illegal payoff, hush money.
Right.
So Will Epstein, a lot of people are saying this will be his fall. I don't think, maybe I'm wrong. Anybody out there, I'd love to, but I don't think the Republicans will move on it unless they truly believe that they will get booted from office if they do anything to Donald Trump.
I agree with you.
Right now, that's the basis, except for 4 or 5 of them, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. And again, Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins and these want to be right sometimes. Now Lisa's all upset about, well, they didn't say they were going to do that. They reneged on her deal. What world do you live in, lady? They lie for a living. It's what they do. Okay, they're not all con men, but they're all liars, and they all have some moral shortcomings if they're backing Donald Trump. So what do you think, Brian? I mean,
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, and the reason why I say that, Dave, that you're correct in your estimation, your speculation, is because if you look at all of the other things that he's done, he's plainly guilty, a complete lack of character. When you go back to the 2 impeachments, and it doesn't, they're all just as bad as the next. It's just there's this sweet spot with little kids, you know what I mean? And you would think that it would matter, but it really doesn't. If it doesn't matter to the pastor or the priest, why would it matter to these people who they hate us?
Well, the other thing that would be interesting, I was thinking about, is if both Trump and Clinton's name come out, and I believe they both took part in the things that Epstein offered. That's my personal belief.
And certainly Clinton, you could speculate that he would be. Look what he did with.
Oh, he is. Clinton is. Oh, Clinton is. There's no question about that. Come on. I mean, Clinton. Clinton to me was the fat band guy who probably never got a girl, and then suddenly was governor, and he was pretty cool. I mean, he was like he was able to get out of that fat little band boy he was. And certainly, I mean, he was, we know Monica Lewinsky, we know probably at least 7 or 8 others. And so you're not going to go to the island and not participate. But what I think it does pose an interesting
dilemma. Paula Jones, like that real winner there too.
Well, look, but it'll really pose a problem for MAGA, because if Trump's name is in there and it gets released, and if Clinton's name is in there and they get released, and there are indications that they were involved, stronger than those right now, but both were involved. What do you do then if you're MAGA? You want Clinton's ass, but to get Clinton's ass, you got to get Trump's ass, because you can't really parse that one too much. You can't say, well, Trump went to try to stop it, and Clinton went.
Hey, by the way, if they did nail Clinton on that, even though I'm sure that Hillary has addressed that with her husband, then I would think Hillary would definitely have to divorce him if it came up.
Well, Melinda Gates divorced Bill. That was the reason.
Because there are some things that you know, your character, you can't.
And again, whatever those two do is what those two do. And let's face it, they had a marriage of arrangement. All right? Gary's right. Trump actually gave a number on it, which I thought was interesting. He said 28 times. Well, if he hasn't seen the files, which he claims he hasn't, he claims that they were, he hasn't seen them. Well, how does he know the number 28?
Right.
Now, again, you can't take that literally, because he makes some numbers.
Numbers
I
up
wouldn't be
anyway.
surprised more. I wouldn't be surprised more if he says there's 13 planets in the universe. I mean, things that we know. And he just, he actually lies even when he doesn't have to. That's what I think, more than anything else, that's what amazes me, that the man will lie when he doesn't have to. And that just makes him a 24/7 liar. Now, I think that anybody, many of us, myself included, have lied over the years to try to get ourselves out of trouble. And it is a normal human reaction. But even when you're doing that, you try to keep the lies somewhat believable. You don't embellish them. You don't lie about things that are true. Unless Trump thinks, and he may think this, if everything's a lie, that I can't get caught because nothing is true. He may believe that. I don't know. Now, South Park, what I find interesting about that is that it's like it's a moment. We're having a moment. So Paramount is making this deal to sell, which, by the way, has been approved.
Right.
It had to be approved with Trump's blessing. They, of course, if you believe that Colbert was let go because of just money and ratings, I've got a bridge in Brooklyn that I'd like to sell you. Certainly that was there, and it's circulating. Well, now, what I found interesting is, and boy, it was a double tweak for the South Park duo, the creators. They had just resolved $1 billion contract that they will get to allow Paramount to show that show in perpetuity, in reruns. So they walked away with a billion, I think it was 1.3, something like that, $1 billion. They get that. And then they go back to what they do best, which is completely ridiculing someone. And this time it was Trump. They go back to a thing they've used again and again and again, the devil, in a humorous sort of way.
And the penis thing. They did the same thing with Osama bin Laden, too.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, and again, penis size has often been equated with manhood, and it goes back and forth. But
But they knew psychologically by doing that, it's going to get him, whether he has a small penis or not. It doesn't matter. He's going to be, humiliated.
Like my queen of the troll response. I think she is brilliant at it. Stormy Daniels. Somebody wrote, in one of her things, said, you never had sex with Trump. Wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. She said, no, you're right. It was a 3-inch pole. And that's that he's now associated with the tiny hands, right? The small penis, the fact that his wife in depositions then withdrew it, that he was taking penis enlargement, every treatment he could get, Viagra by the ton, etc. But so they got back at the company. They said never bite the hand that feeds you. Well, they bit Paramount's hand. Now, one of the interesting stories to follow, if you have time, it's not a major story, is the story of the negotiations, how it went. They had to get Paramount to agree to let them use the little penis.
Really?
Yeah, because again, it's censorship. Now, South Park, of course, is a 21st century version of the Smothers Brothers, in the fact that the Smothers Brothers, were canned for being satirists, but somehow, like, because it's a cartoon, I think The Simpsons and Simpsons and South Park are the two best. They're like the Howard Stern of shock jocks, right? Sometimes it's really pretty damn offensive, but it's done for a reason. Now, I did find it interesting, and if anybody out there has a reason or a theory why, I'd love to hear it. Trump did not respond immediately to that. He had
He called it a fourth-rate show or something like that.
Well, but I mean, he actually had a White House lackey, not even the press secretary, to say stuff first. Now, I don't think Trump does anything without thinking it out. I mean, unless he's on the spot. But
Right.
So there's a reason for that, and what that reason is, I don't know. Does he feel that he won with Colbert? And he did. If he put either way, he won. Either he put pressure on Paramount to dump Colbert, or Paramount dumped Colbert as a present to him.
Right.
So Trump was involved in Colbert's firing.
Either way, it's not good.
Yeah. And that is something that should concern every American. One of the things that we've always kind of tried to hold up is the idea of free speech. It's one of the most misunderstood concepts in America. But there were a lot of people who thought free speech is you can say whatever you want. That's not true. I mean, I spent 3 years talking and lecturing and touring behind that. So, but this idea of you say something bad about me and I'm coming after you is something relatively new. And I think one of the things that I would fault MAGA for, among the many, is they only think of the now. Okay, so say this. Just say this happens. So Trump now is doing certain things. But if he's not there and a Democrat gets in, he could do those same things, but flip it, right? So now it would be directed at MAGA and the Republican Party and the oligarchs and these things. So no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, you want the Constitution to win. You have to, because and MAGA doesn't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the First Amendment. They, as you said, Brian, I think a lot of it's just motivated simply by hate, and it's hate of the other, it's hate of Democrats, it's hate of anybody who doesn't agree with you. It's hate. And what has happened is Trump has given by being who he is and doing what he does, he's said it's okay. I forget, and if I did, I apologize to people for repeating, but my granddaughter, who is very radical, and in fact, interestingly, she just visited Northwestern this week. She's doing the college tour. And she really liked, and Northwestern is a great school. It's also a great journalism school for anybody. She's not going for journalism, but one of the things that impressed her, Stephen Colbert went there. So I said, well, I don't know if that's that impressive, but it's there. But anyway, she picks up on things. So she comes home after Trump slipped, and he did slip, and say fuck live. That wasn't planned. And she comes back and kind of has this discussion with her parents. Says, well, I can fucking say fuck as much as I fucking want now because the fucking president of the United States said fuck. And that means saying fuck is fucking okay. Now, she was using satire, right? But she was also speaking to a greater truth. If the president does it, how many times? If the president does it, it must be okay. He is supposed to be, and he is. He's supposed to be. And I've said all along that the most important job the president of the United States has, he, and hopefully soon a she, and then a number of she's, the most important job they have is setting the tone for the country. Now, not only does Trump set a bad tone for the country, he sets a bad tone for the country and the world. Now, I don't know if you've been, this, to me, this is just insane. Trump goes to Scotland to open a golf course. That's why he went. There's no other reason. He opened a new golf course. Depending on whose version you read, the American taxpayers, which is you and me and everyone who pays taxes, that trip cost either somewhere between 9.3 and $10 million. Okay. Judy, my wife, said, but wait a minute, I thought presidents couldn't do that. I said, honey, the rules don't apply to Trump, and they don't.
Right.
But look at the reception he got in Scotland. Okay. I mean, they were brutal from the newspapers. And there's a thing circulating. It's really kind of funny, but it's all the things that they called him. Now, I'm not sure that list is true, but they're all English sayings that are just kind of funny about him. But certainly, I would venture that outside of wartime, Trump is the most despised American president in history, and maybe the most despised of all, even given wartime.
Well earned.
So that leaves us with the third thing on the list, and
Tulsi Gabbard. Jesus Christ.
yeah, why don't you go with that first, Brian? What do you got?
Well, first of all, most of us, about the time that we were trying to figure out who would be the nominee in the Democratic Party once Biden was, bailing out, we kind of figured obviously it was going to be Kamala Harris, but there was a lot of talk about Tulsi Gabbard. And she came across as some kind of moderate Democrat, reasonably intelligent. Right. But I didn't see it. I never saw it. I always saw her as a phony with personal interests, whether it would be through Russia or through other countries. And she almost didn't seem like an American. I'm not one to be able to point a finger, but something about her, there was nothing legitimate about her. And ever since she got into Trump's hands here, you could see that she was just doing it because it paid better. And now, what she involved in, she's ready to get involved with this thing with the look over here. We're going to accuse Obama of crimes, and that, of course, excites the base there. But she's despicable. And anybody who actually thought that she would be a reasonable candidate for the Democratic Party, you had to be so goddamn naive. And that's part of the problem within the Democratic Party, as you know, is the naivete. Some people, were assuming that Bernie would win, and we were supporters of Bernie, you and I both.
Both, absolutely.
But it's very complicated. This is a very conservative country, and you have to be able to. You're not negotiating with one party, but you're negotiating with two parties here, essentially. So, long story short, she was a snake in the grass, and she's willing to do the bargaining for him. She's in a sense worse because she flipped. She's another Jeff Andrew. Dave, take it away.
No, you're absolutely correct. For all of that, there are times when I almost say, and it's not true, but it's close. He couldn't have picked a worse team. Of course, you could always pick a worse team, but I've met in D.C., large city. I've met street people who I would rather have sitting in the cabinet than anybody who's there now. And it's almost as if, they've sold their soul. Marco Rubio is not a fan of Donald Trump. No, he's not. No. Okay. Mitch McConnell, not a fan of Donald Trump. Personally, professionally, politically, no. But because it's power, then you have to, or they feel they have to, literally and figuratively sell their soul to Donald Trump. Now, it's easy to say, for me and many of us to say, well, I wouldn't do that. Well, we'd never get to that point because we wouldn't even associate with him, right?
Right. But if you were a Republican and you were a staunch Republican.
I don't know what I would do. I really don't, because I can't conceive of myself being a Republican.
Right. You can't be in that mindset.
I've never been that. I will never be that. Now, this is the worst it's been. And I held off for a long time, saying, Nixon. No, this is past anything of Watergate. Trump is 100 times worse president than Richard Nixon was. And Richard Nixon, I never thought there'd be a worse president, in my lifetime. Now, one of the things we've been playing with down here, and it's interesting, I open it up, I hope somebody will answer this question. One of the things we've been trying to figure out is who is the most likely Democrat to win regardless of who the Republican nominee is. Now, yesterday, I was at a AFT, which for anybody who don't know, it's American Teachers Federation group, and friends of mine were doing a presentation there. But it was like a happy hour for afterwards, and I went, and a lot of really sharp young liberal cause advocates, lobbyists, Senate and House aides were there, and we were all of us were kind of discussing that, and nobody seems to have a totally they win no matter what candidate. There, of course, if you were to ask me who's the smartest, it would be Buttigieg.
Right.
If you're going to ask me of who the most, and I'm not talking about the good parts of JFK, the JFK candidate, Gavin Newsom, but Gretchen.
I mean, do you think when you mentioned somebody like Buttigieg,
no
you
way.
said most intelligent? Do you see him as an Adlai Stevenson, or just because, or more of the problem, the fact that he's gay?
More the problem is the fact that he's gay. Well, both. I mean,
because Americans never liked intellectuals. I mean, aside from Wilson,
Adlai
maybe.
Stevenson is proof. No, well, they just didn't for the most part. You're right, and and sometimes I can understand that. With my grandchildren growing up in the South, I've spent a lot of time there. As I said, my roots on my father's side are in the South, and there's a deep-seated inferiority complex in the South. But part of that is deserved. They have horrible school system, so they don't learn words. And then when people come down there and use a vocabulary, they think they're showing off, and they're really just using. I mean, I don't think I use big words. They're just words that I know, and that is true.
It is absolutely true.
Cheat,
and
they don't cheat as well.
That's going to be the big problem in the future. How we deal with
but
them.
you know what? But you've got this thing that we got to keep our eye on. This New York mayoral race. Now, New York is not indicative of the country. It's like saying Atlanta is part of the South. It's not. North Carolina and South Carolina, you're talking about two different worlds, even though they both have Carolina in the name. So there's a lot of things to go there. But this is, can an Arab named person who espouses ideas that aren't communist but are labeled communist by the MAGA Republicans, can that person win? But not looking so much for the win, but looking where the strengths are. And I think the strengths right now, the Democrats have to do a few things. The candidate has to offer something beyond just Trump's bad. Okay, you have to give people, and I think one of the failings of the Biden era was that Biden kept saying, and if you looked at certain indicators, the economy was good. I bet you couldn't find 5 people in a supermarket anywhere in America who said, I'm standing right here with a good economy. Because the people who had the good economy didn't go to the supermarkets.
Right.
Does Jeff Bezos go do weekly shopping? I don't think so. So you have to look to how the Democrats lost the working class, and then figure out, but don't waste your time on getting it back. Do you know why, Bri? There is no working class. And there's going to be less and less and less and less. I argued with another who is my ultimate MAGA. I love arguing with him. We still do.
Is this on Facebook?
Yeah. I'll give a shout out to Kevin Johnson. If you want to know what a MAGA thinks, and Kevin is not by nature, he's not an evil person. He's not. He's not misguided. He's somewhere in between. But I posted something about anti-oligarchy, and he basically said, "Well, what? You don't want people to be rich, and you're jealous?" And I said, "But what?" It really hit me then, Brian, at that moment when he put back this thing. He really doesn't understand that if it doesn't affect you, you can still be supportive. I'm not an immigrant. I'm going to be I'm going to be one of the last people they take, not because of what I do or who I am, but because I'm a white Anglo-Saxon, male, heterosexual acceptor. I'm going to be one of the last ones they put in the camp. But that doesn't mean I can't be concerned right now about every immigrant walking around who is terrified. And they should be. And You wait until you look with all this money ICE is getting. You know who they're hiring? They're hiring rent-a-cops. People who want, well, J6ers, rent-a-cops, people who hate immigrants, people, who've been short-changed. That is good. I mean, that's not a police group. It's a white group that are mad that they didn't work part of the Capitol takeover. And some of them were. We've already proven they've hired some J6ers. So the point is, when we look at this, I think that is a big difference between many Democrats and all Republicans. Many Democrats do have the ability to look beyond their personal circumstances and hold some version of the big trio. And I consider the big trio of humanity to be, excuse me, kindness, empathy, and compassion. And if anybody can show me one instance of Donald Trump exhibiting that, then I would be surprised. And I asked you, and people said, well, you just attack him. I said, no, show me something. Show me something he did out of kindness. Show me something that, they gave me the opening. They said, oh, you're returning some food to Gaza, right? I don't know if you saw that this week. And he goes, yeah, and they didn't even say thank you to me. And who the fuck do you think you are? Well, I know who you think you are. You think you're Donald Trump. And look, if you can kid yourself, and I'm being serious about this, if you can kid yourself that your penis is large and it's small, you're fucked. The penis doesn't lie. Okay? If it's small, it's small. If it's big, it's big. If it's regular, and so if you can do that, and his world is just the opposite of kindness and compassion. There are qualities he probably subscribes. I'm sure he hasn't vocalized that, but he subscribes to the Elon Musk theory that empathy is the downfall of mankind. And the irony of it is, it's the only thing that separates us from the beasts. It's the only thing. What else? If you really think about it, and they represent sometimes more kindness and empathy and concern for each other as animals than we do. So I think, it's just the idea, and I don't see it getting a whole lot better by something that's there now. I think inevitably Trump will fall, but right now I'm sooner thinking disease or death than I am any kind of political comeuppance. And well, think about this, people. Would if Trump said, nope, Constitution, people need me, I've done such a great job. Yeah, you're right. So, right there, no question, Veg. No question. He is textbook. Well, but as I say, I think, short of, if I had a gun, I would not kill Donald Trump. I might beat him over the head with it, right? Because that would put me into a moral place, or an immoral place that I don't want to be. But I think, but let's say, let's try it this way. Let's say he says, look, the country's been great. Joe Biden fucked us up. I got us out. I think I should just have a third term. Who's gonna oppose that?
Who's gonna oppose that?
Yeah. Well, if the Democrats don't have a majority,
right? There's nothing that will stop him, and the Supreme Court won't.
We know the Supreme Court, what it will do. At least two of the members, and probably 5 in that case. It'd probably be a 5-4. I don't know which.
And even if Roberts votes in the minority, he does it knowing that he didn't have to.
Well,
if he had to have, he would have done it anyway.
Yeah, and that's where. Well, Well, I'll leave my points with this tonight because I think this is going to be interesting. And again, I have a vested interest in Alabama. And Gary, that's a great topic. It really is. And we'll bring that up next week because I think that is something that we have to, yes, right now you have the focus on Trump, but you can't let Vance off the hook. I was talking to some of these people last night who are really well politically connected in terms of streets and lobbying. They said keep hammering Vance. Yes, hammer Trump, but Vance is the heir apparent, which he is, right? But if the truth
What?
is
No
out there-
Don Jr. I'm just
Well,
being
you saw who
facetious.
else-
But
No, but you saw who threw his name in the hat. Eric.
Eric,
Let the two brothers do a
Dodo.
thunder. Do a Mad Max Thunderdome. Two brothers enter, one brother leaves. But back to the point I want to kind of end with tonight, which is to me kind of scary. As I said, I have a vested interest in Alabama because my grandchildren are raised there, and it looks like my grandson will be going to the University of Alabama. He's still got 2 years of school, but at this point, it looks pretty sure that he'll be going there. So there'll be an Alabama connection for at least 6 more years. And they have one of their senators is acknowledged to be the dumbest senator
and I was just
Senate,
thinking of him. He is the dumbest senator.
Tommy Tuberville, and he is the consummate idea of a Southern football coach, because that's what he was. He was the coach at Auburn, and of course, football is God down there. And there's a tremendous division between University of Alabama and all. But anyway, he waves the win. Now it looks like apparently he is going to leave the Senate and run for governor. So here's my question. If Tommy Tuberville leaves, if he won't leave tomorrow, but who would be the second dumbest who would then move up to that point? And I don't know who that would be because, Tommy just has it locked up. And it used to be you could be corrupt, you could be evil, but you couldn't really be too stupid to be a senator. And now that's just not the case. So, Brian, the question we always ask, I put you on the spot first. Feeling better than you did this time last week? Feeling worse than you did this time?
I can say this time
Where's Brian
I
Weinstein?
feel worse about it.
Okay, and hone in a little bit on that to help people who say, "Oh, Brian, what do you mean?"
Well,
So
as soon as I'll end it the way I finished it. I'll end it the way I started it when I saw that box there. I mean, it was in broad day. What they gave to Ghislaine Maxwell, that is it's absurd. Why is she carrying a fucking box? And why are they even meeting with her? I mean, we all know why.
I know. No, I know. Well, yes. What is amazing is, as some people keep pointing out, this is not. Okay. The Washington Post had a saying, which kind of they blew by being the asshole organization they are now, but democracy dies in darkness. Well, that's got a good literature thing, and it sounded good. Of course, they're killing democracy, and what's happening is, but democracy is not dying in darkness, Brian. It's dying in broad daylight.
Daylight. You're right.
Broad daylight. They just feel they can do anything, and why not? Nobody stopped them yet. And until you're stopped, you don't. I think this.
We're really going to need a lot of these South Parks, and I mean, no, it sounds like they're powerless, but in a certain sense, if you keep drilling that in, it will make a difference.
And that's the other thing. So I'm going to kind of say that I'm exactly where I was last week, but leaning a little bit more pessimistic. But the reason is, and I don't know that we have the time, the clock is ticking, okay? And it's ticking toward a midterm, and then it's ticking toward a presidential election. And
a
when I
corrupt
look at
midterm, too.
Well, we know that. I mean, that's a given. Look at Texas. Texas, if that redistricting that they're doing right now in Texas comes through, it decreases. It's almost going to be impossible for the House to win because they'll lose 5 Democrats that are currently there because they're redistricting. Now, and Democrats, I don't even know in Democratic states.
Well, then California needs to do the same fucking thing.
Well, they will. I think that part will.
Because California's bigger than Texas.
Yeah, but
let's not forget that they are bigger than Texas.
Oh, absolutely. But what I see, as I say, as I look this week, and I was thinking about, I was talking to these young, I don't want to call them radicals, but social activists last night, and I was very impressed with their enthusiasm, and I was very impressed with their intelligence. I'm very impressed with the organizations that they're running. But it took a long damn time to get us where we got to end the Vietnam War, to get civil rights where it was. I mean, now civil rights is, And I don't think you can deal with that. I mean, I think they're two different issues. We got it to a fairly decent point with the high point being the election of Barack Obama. Now we're back way below that, but we did prove we could get there. Same thing with the idea of equal opportunities for women. We got a lot of them done, not enough, but now it's fallen back. But all of that took time, and we really don't have that time. So knowing my belief that it takes time to change a country, when you don't have the time, it's sort of like the way I look at it is like you could have the leading bomb expert, right, in the world, and the bomb's ticking, and he says, I need 57 seconds to stop this bomb. And he said, you've got 32. Can we stop it in 32 seconds? Because we may not have the 57 seconds to stop the bomb that is Donald Trump and the GOP and MAGA and the hate and the violence that is today endorsed in the United States of America.
Right. Well said. And by the way, as we leave here, Dave, and by the way, thank you. I'd like to give two fuck yous to let's not forget Roger Stone, that fucking asshole. And Paul Manafort, like nobody talks about him anymore. What a motherfucker he was. And these are guys that get pardoned, just like the Jan Sixers, and they can go fuck themselves too, but especially those two. So if you're listening, Brian, Roger Stone, fuck you.
Yeah. Well, what happens is it really is, okay? I'm kind of a political junkie, and I have a heart, and I live in Washington, D.C., which is the heart of what's happening, and I can't keep up with all the bad players. I mean, it's really hard.
It's that bad.
Because and suddenly they'll go away. Now, the one place I do want to go, and I definitely will report, there's now a new restaurant up near Capitol Hill, and it is the MAGA showplace right now. And Steve Bannon has a table there. And my goal when I get back from New Jersey, before September, gives me the month of August, I want to go up there and they say, people come over and he'll, I know he won't talk to you necessarily, but I want to, that's doable. I know where the restaurant is. I think they have to let me in at first. They may throw me out later. But the idea of it is that when I say an open daylight, I mean, just think of the deals that are being made in that restaurant.
I can imagine.
Are anti-American.
I was thinking, Dave, maybe we could work together on a tune one time. Like something that sounds the same. You remember like the Simon and Garfunkel song, was it So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright? We could have a song, Fuck You.
Well, actually,
Roger Stone or something like that.
Well, of course you can now because you've got, you're a really talented guitar player. There's no question about that. And I'm a journeyman keyboard who's a better live player than I am studio player. But with AI now, it could certainly help.
Right. You could get some who knows? Because he is a fucking asshole. I just can't stand just as a person. He's such a phony with the hair transplant, and then he's got the I assume he's got the what the fuck to get yourself muscular shit. Steroids.
Steroids.
Yeah, and then that's done. And Manafort, he's just a fucking crook, man. That's one guy you want to kick right in the crotch as soon as you see him.
Well, you know what? And you know what's funny, Brian, is like, this would be interesting, and it could be done. I don't have time to do it. How many of these people came to Trump, and how many did Trump discover? Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, Manafort was already up to no good, prior to Trump.
Oh, they all were. But I'm just saying, like,
Roger Stone, what a prick! Ever since Richard Nixon.
The idea is out there. So, but it would just be interesting. And how many came and the other thing, and I'll leave with this thought. I just think somebody posted, I forget who up there said about J.D. Vance, and he's. One of the things that he's Peter Thiel's boy. And if you don't know who Peter Thiel is, you need to know. He is the worst of the billionaires because he doesn't put himself out. Musk is out. Bezos is out. Nobody knows who Peter Thiel is. And so he's that dangerous one who has the money, isn't interested in the personal power, but wants the power. So you're gonna get a twofer. Definitely.
I'd like to give one last question, Dave, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It's
Oh,
just
go
for
ahead.
it's just a thought experiment. Okay. So
ahead.
here's the experiment. If you had the red button, that if you
Right.
hit that red button, every single maggot, or whatever you want to call them, and that includes
Mm-hmm.
Trump, would simply, just like with Star Trek, just disappear into dust. Like they wouldn't be guillotined. It would just all of a sudden zip, they're gone. Would you hit that button?
Well, here's what I would say about that. I'm
And you
not
can
ducking
answer
the
that
issue.
too, folks. Yes, just a wire, and
know.
then
But here's what I would say. As a year ago, I would have said no. I wouldn't do it.
and I want you to answer it
Yeah,
honestly
I mean-
too. Honestly, yeah.
That was an honest answer. Now, I'd have to do what I rarely do,
Right.
is sit down and do a plus and minus list. And a lot of the pluses, there'd be a lot of pluses. But here's my fear. Here's always my fear of something, and this is always when we play these history games, and they're fun to play. You know, like, would you take out Hitler? Would you do this? Yours is a little bit different because you're taking out everybody. So that's good.
Everybody, right?
But it's different than just taking out Trump, because there's always a
Increase
possibility
the
that things can
population,
get worse.
That might be bad.
They could get worse. I would say this: the red button will play, and we just have to hope that Trump never hits the wrong red button, because there are two red buttons at his desk. One is a summons for Diet Coke, and the other.
You're better than I am,
is
Paige.
And you know what? Yeah, and that's an interesting thing. And I think at the end, Brian, not because I'm some kind of moral, spiritual, virtuous person. Lord knows I'm not. I think that would be the thing that would stop me from doing.
Well, just remember
Would
they
be-
do kill diseases.
No.
we do
But-
kill diseases
Oh no,
and
no,
viruses.
no,
too.
we do all that. No. I say the
Yeah.
difference.
If they're
is,
cancer, you
I
try to
would-
kill it.
I would have rejected as out of hand, but with Trump here now, this
Right.
is real, and you look at the damage he's doing, and so I wouldn't be as quick to say that. What I would say is this. What I would say about this is this simply: I wouldn't fault anyone who did it.
Right. You could understand.
No, I wouldn't fault. I mean, if you would that, I
Right.
don't know if I'd clap.
Certainly
I
could
probably would
understand.
clap. No, but anyway. All right, Brad.
All right, Dave. Thank you. I'll get back to you, Dave,
About
tomorrow.
about
Some
I
of the
talked
other
to
thing.
you
Right.
about before.
Right.
Yeah,
And
all
thank
right.
you, everybody.
Be good.
All right.
Thank you, everybody,
Adios.
for being here. Adios.